right, so welcome once again, everyone. I'm excited to have Charles Loos. Am I saying it right?
You did it right.
Excellent. Charles Loos with us talking about the 70-48 race and talking about boating through the night, navigation at night, and different navigation techniques. So, Charles, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, I'm going to share my screen. Are you seeing a slide? Navigation?
I'm kind of seeing probably the whole window. I see the series of slides down on the left-hand side, but
Okay.
I'm seeing the big slide that says navigation for adventure
I
kayaking.
need the series of slides down the side as a crutch, so you'll just have to.
Yeah, no worries.
Okay, well, thank you for having me, everybody. This is a presentation on navigation for adventure kayaking. I was talking to Ken earlier, and he used the term expedition kayaking, but either one. And it's about really being free on the water to go where you want to go and do what you want to do. My name is Charles Loos. I'm the ocean coach. I teach people how to judge forecast, cross the bar, determine when it's safe to go in the ocean. I teach navigation and I teach VHF radio protocols. So I'm really helping people get out onto the ocean on their small boats. But first, a confession. I am not a paddler, I'm a rower. So I hope that doesn't disqualify me here. This is my boat. It's a pygmy wherry that I bought or that I built a few years ago. 14 feet long, 90 pounds. Just a marvelous, marvelous vessel. I absolutely love it. And here's me pooping the boat at Pacific City. Do you use the term yard sale when all your gear washes up on the beach after you poop the boat? You've heard that? Yeah, I did one of those.
I've never heard the
Um,
term pooping the boat, so I'm learning all sorts of new words.
okay. Okay. So again, this is about adventure, and just to perk your interest, what sort of adventures do you dream about? Is it a mother-daughter expedition down a remote river, or that Arctic sea kayak race in Norway, or camp hopping down the Columbia like Ken wants to do, or an athletic challenge, or an adventure honeymoon in Alaska, or a coming of age or vision quest trip, or whatever it is? If you've got something like that on your bucket list, you're going to need to know how to navigate. That will really set you free. And so really the three promises of skilled navigation are, first of all, knowing where you are at all times, knowing how to get to your destination, and knowing your way back. As a subset of that, I think there's also the freedom to change your mind, no matter what your plan is for the day, to be able to change your mind and say, I don't want to go to that cove. I want to go to this cove, or I want to spend an extra night. Good navigation kind of takes away the fear factor and sets you free to go have fun out there. Now, for human powered boat people like ourselves, there's another huge limitation in that we are power poor and we are speed poor. So I have a 22-foot power boat, which I also love, but we're kind of 3 knot people, and we are much more at the mercy of wind and current. And we're also running around out there with about 1/10 of a horsepower, where the average outboard is around 200. So another facet of navigation for us as human powered boat people is we have to be efficient when we paddle or row. We have to get there in a straight line. We can't be meandering all over the place, because we run out of energy, we run out of time, and the currents get the best of us. So here's the question for the chat. Do you navigate with GPS waypoints just in general in your everyday? I'm trying to gauge whether that's something that you generally do, or if that would be something that's new to you. So if you could just give me a yes or a no in the chat, and maybe throw some, whatever additional comments, that'd be great. So I'd love to see that. And Jennifer, I'm not seeing that chat window the way I have this set up. Let's see. Oh, there it is.
Yeah, it might be different since you're sharing your screen, but it looks like
No.
mostly no's.
Okay. All right. Yes. Okay. This is great. Charts and compass, Charles. Wow. No, but want to learn. No, 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 no. I just follow the oops organizers.
That's me.
That's you. Okay. No,
Yeah.
lots of no's.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Thank you for that feedback. That's great.
Yeah. Looks like we have one person that says yes on their gravel bike.
Okay. All right. All right. Well, let's talk about getting from point A to point B in a straight line. 100 yards is easy. You point the bow of the boat and you go. When you get to 5 miles, it's a little more difficult. If you've got crosswinds and currents, it's more difficult still. If you have fog or darkness, it's more difficult still. If you have heavy shipping traffic, like you might in the Columbia or Puget Sound, that makes it harder. If you're in tidal situations with the currents reversing, that makes it harder, and fatigue makes it harder. So these are the things that can kind of make it a little more difficult to get from point A to point B. And I want to use 78 as a container to kind of talk about that. And this is a race I completed several years ago, and it's a fantastic experience. It's from Tacoma to Port Townsend, and that's 70 miles, 70 nautical miles, and they give you 48 hours to complete it. Other than that, you're pretty much on your own. And the rules are great. They're very simple. Human powered boats only. And that means no cheating with any kind of sails or big hats or squirrel costumes or whatever you want to do. It's just human powered. You're not allowed escort boats or shore support. You're not allowed to cache supplies on shore. And the start time is 5:30 p.m. So that means you're going through the night, one way or the other. You're going through the night. They've actually changed it now to 7:30 p.m. So it's sort of an exercise in radical self-reliance. And if anybody's thinking of doing it, they do it every June, and it's sponsored by the people who do the Wooden Boat Show up in Port Townsend. It's well run, and it cost me a lot of time and training, but I don't regret it one bit. So I want to talk about one leg of this expedition. This was the Bainbridge Island leg, which for me was by far the most challenging. I don't know if you can see the map. There's Seattle right there. And this is Blake Island down here. And this is, I call it the Bainbridge Reach, but here's Bainbridge Island. And this is 11.5 miles of open water. All right. Now, you're not going to traverse that efficiently by following the shoreline. That would not be an efficient way to do that. This is at the 30-mile point. So you've paddled 30 miles, you're tired, you got 40 miles to go. So you need to be efficient. And during this transit, the tidal current is going to reverse on you. On the beginning, I was going with the current. The tide changed in about the middle, and now I'm going against the current. And to add all that, there are ferries going across. And these ferries are big, fast, and scary. It was by far the most terrifying part of this whole voyage, was dealing with the ferries and not getting run over. Plus, it's nighttime. So this traverse has it all. And I want to use it as sort of a, if you can do this, you can sort of do anything. Now, so many no answers on using the GPS. So let me just review that a little bit. A GPS is a $5 GPS chip surrounded by a mini computer that does all sorts of wonderful calculations for you. It basically tells you exactly where you are. And then the mini computer has all sorts of wonderful features. But basically what it allows you to do is drop an electronic pin at a point that you want to get to. And then you can push a go-to function, and it gives you an arrow like this. And as long as you follow the arrow, it takes you right to that waypoint. It's a fantastic tool. Here's a little handheld unit. These are about $300. And it gives you all sorts of other information, like the distance to go to your waypoint, your ETA, and your speed. So if you're not using this, and you're interested in expeditions, I would suggest getting one of these and learning to use it. Walk around on the street with it, take it to the park, but learn to set a waypoint and travel to that waypoint. It's just an absolutely marvelous tool. But for the kind of traverse I'm talking about, that isn't gonna, just going to a waypoint isn't gonna get you where you need to go. I gotta look at the time here, sorry. 7:15, okay. So here's a problem. Let's say you're going from point A to point B, but there's a tidal current, a cross current. Well, what's going to happen is you're going to keep that little pointer will keep you pointed at the destination, but the current is going to sweep you off to the side like this. So as you go, your course is not a straight line, but there's a big belly in it. And if the tidal current is strong, you're going to end up at the end practically paddling into that current to make up all this lost time. It's not an efficient course. You're not going in a straight line. This is another sort of picture of it. You know, your intended track is straight, but your actual course is not. Is that clear? Can I get some heads nodding or something? Does that make sense?
That makes
Okay.
sense. And Charles, there's a question if at some point you can share what brand of GPS you like. What one do you use?
Um, I like Garmin because I know their operating system. They're probably the leader. They have a lot of good marine products that have charts built into them. So, and this one is a 78 SC, but they discontinued it last week. So I'm kind of at a loss there. But, you know, get one that floats and that has built-in charts. You can get these that have charts for the whole West Coast, and it's a mini chart plotter. So, and of course, get one that's waterproof. Any other questions since we got a small group?
That's all that's in the chat right now.
Okay, this is great. I love this group size. Okay, so there's a refinement of the GPS. Rather than just heading to a point, you can use what they call the roadway function or the highway function. Depends on the unit, but you see there's this is a depiction of a highway in front of you. And what you want to do is keep going right down the highway. If you find yourself straying off to the side of the highway, that means you're getting swept to the side like that. But with the highway screen, you can say, oops, I've got to go to the right a little bit, or I've got to go to the left a little bit. And you can just keep yourself on that straight track. So it's a great way to go. You can use your compass. I should go back to the compass. Let's take a sidebar on the compass. What if you're using a compass to go from point A to point B? If there's a side current, you're going to get a similar situation. You're just going to keep going down this way. Your course will still be in the same direction because the compass is pointing to true north, but you will get swept down to the side. With the highway thing, you can kind of fudge what your compass is saying. If you end up crabbing into the current by 10 degrees, you can offset your compass course a little bit. But anyway, so this highway page it's a refinement, but for us low power people, it's a fantastic way to go. Some GPS units do it a little different way. They give you what's called cross-track error. And again, point A to point B, if you get off track, it'll tell you how many feet off track you are in the direction. So you're paddling along, and all of a sudden, you're 5 feet off course, and then you're 10 feet, and pretty soon you're 30 or 40 or 50 feet off course. That means you're getting swept off course. But it'll tell you, hey, you need to go to the left by 15 feet or 20 feet or 30 feet or whatever. And once you get this dialed in, once you set up your screen so it shows the cross-track error, you get really good at it. It becomes almost automatic, and you're staying on course pretty much plus or minus 15 feet, which of course is a very, very efficient and straight course. Now let's really get into some weeds. Like I said, if there's heavy shipping around, that is terrifying. This is one of the ferries that goes across at all hours of the night. and they do a good 20 knots. And when you have one of those running at you, it's really scary. And in our little boats, we're not real good radar targets. So one thing you can do, VHF radio. Give me an answer in the chat. How many of you carry a VHF marine radio when you're on the ocean? Give me a yes or a no. Yeah, no, okay, yes, yes, yes. Okay. Okay, pretty well evenly split. Huh, okay. I see a lot of kayakers fishing on the ocean, and they're usually pretty good. They usually run in packs and they have these things. The obvious benefit of this is you can talk to each other and you can call the Coast Guard if you need it. But a side benefit is you can tune in on the commercial shipping channel. It's 14 up in Puget Sound, and I think it's 14 on the Columbia River. And for bridge lifts, you want to be on 13. But get one of these, put it on scan. It'll have a scan function, and you'll want channel 16, 22 alpha, and 13 and 14. And what this does for you is you get to hear the ferry captains announce when they're departing. And you'll hear them talking to you, and they might even say, hey, there's some lunatic in a kayak ahead of me. And you'll be able to hear the cruise ships as they come around the corner and the submarines and all that. And it gives you a set of ears so that you're not so surprised by what the heavy shipping traffic is doing. And I consider it, Ken, like you're gonna do this thing down the Columbia River. I think it's a navigation tool, because you need to know what the shipping traffic is doing. The tugs will be on there, the container ships will be on there, and you can also talk to them. They will respond on channel 14. You are a legitimate transmitter on channel 14. All right, let's see, how are we doing on time? Okay, we're moving briskly. So there's even one more level you can go. Like I say, on an endurance run, you are really husbanding your energy. And what I've done here with this unit is, this is my heart rate. You can set up these screens any way you want. So I have this chest strap monitor, which I'm wearing, which is Bluetooth to my GPS, and it gives me my heart rate. Now, for an endurance run, heart rate is everything. If you stay in the low aerobic zone, you can literally paddle all day and all night, assuming you have reasonable strength and skills and a pretty good cardiovascular engine. If you go above that, you're going to burn your glycogen, and you're going to burn it quick. And when people hit the wall, in terms of athletics, when they hit a state of exhaustion and collapse, it's because they've gone too high on the heart rate. And once they burn their glycogen, they're done. They're absolutely done. So this becomes almost like your tachometer. But it illustrates again the power of this little box, right? You can Bluetooth a heart rate monitor to it. So if you set it all right, if you learn to use this thing, it'll help you stay on a straight line, and it'll help you get there faster, and you can get through all these challenges that I was talking about. Any questions at this point? Comments, stories, complaints?
There's nothing in the chat right now, but if someone has a question, you're welcome just to ask it out loud.
Yeah, I'm ahead of schedule, so please do.
Charles, this is Peter.
Hi, Peter.
I was curious about your Garmin, if you're having that all the time on as you're doing your night navigation. How quickly are you going through your batteries?
Excellent question. For 7048, I had two of these on a chart plotter running on a motorcycle battery. So, I mean, these are cheap enough that if it's serious, like out in the ocean, I might even have two of them. But you'll get about 12 hours out of these. Okay. And they run on double A's.
Right. Also on your Garmin, it looks like you can configure what you want to use for your small data fields.
Yes, yes.
When you showed the compass, setting rather than the map setting on the Garmin. Or were those the data fields that you typically use when you're out, cruising at night?
Well, okay, so for something serious like 7048, I got two of these things going, and one of them has the pointer.
Right.
The other one has the heart rate and things like speed and elapsed time and all that other stuff.
So on the pointer one, you go back to that if you would. So you're doing speed, distance to next, ETA to destination, and time to next. You're not doing things like, your GPS heading or your heading.
I harvested this image from Dr. Google, so this isn't necessarily what I have. I would have cross-track error on here. That's what I would have. It would tell me I'm so many feet to the right or left. That's what I would have. And I would definitely have speed and probably distance to next. That's what I put on there.
Okay, that makes sense.
I have a couple more questions. Thank you. But before I left something out, I told you that there was a tide change right in the middle of this. So, okay, so you've been paddling for 30 miles and it's dark and and the tide changed. And now all of a sudden, the tide is against you. Here's a question. Are you actually making headway over ground? Maybe you're not. I figured this was about a 1.5 knot current, but the current tables are not that accurate. So you can't look at the shoreline and say, I'm making progress or I'm going backwards. That's where the GPS comes in again, because you can set it for speed over ground. And I was fully prepared. If I was out here and I was getting swept backwards, I wasn't going to spend my calories doing that. I was going to come pull into a cove for a while. And as it turned out, I was still making 1.5 knots even against the current. But that's yet another way to use this thing. Oh boy. The question, okay. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say you have 3 questions in here. One, how do you mount the GPS in your boat to keep your hands free for rowing? And then maybe related to that, any issue with glare on the screen from the sun or from the lights? I'll let you answer that before I do the other one.
These are such good questions. I don't know if you can see the Velcro on the back of this.
Oh yeah. Uh-huh.
I just stuck Velcro to the side of my boat and stuck it on there. I also use ram mounts. Are you familiar with those? The ball and socket mounts?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Those are really good as well. But you do have to fix it to the boat somehow. So Velcro or ram mounts are the ones I've used.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see, Robin, you asked if an iWatch or iPhone might be capable of the technology. Generally, yes, but here's the thing. I get really antsy. I mean, my world is this phone. Fumbling around with this thing with wet hands. If it goes overboard, it isn't going to float. These are waterproof, but I just feel it's not very well adapted to what we do. So I go with a separate device. You can use this, and no question about it. But if it goes overboard, it's lost, whereas this floats. I will say I dropped one of these during COVID. I was rowing on the Willamette, and I had my keys, wallet, and cell phone in a dry bag. And my procedure was put the dry bag on the dock, then get out, because I didn't want to drop my keys and all that stuff. So I didn't close the dry bag. I put it on the dock. I got out on the boat, on the dock, and here comes 10 people storming me, want to know everything about what I'm doing. And I'm trying to back away, maintain some COVID distance. And I accidentally kicked my dry bag into the river, and down it went in 7 feet of water. And it sat there for 4 hours until I called my wife. She came with a wetsuit and a mask and a snorkel, and there was a whole hullabaloo. But the point is, I retrieved this thing after 4 hours underwater, and it worked. It was amazing. So yes, it'll work. It'll work.
I mean, they sell those cases for your phone that float. So I guess,
yeah.
I don't know how it handles it if it's getting inundated with waves, but
If you're doing serious expedition work, I'd get the proper tool. If you're doing casual, use the phone.
Yeah.
Okay, issues with glare on the screen is such a great question. Not with the GPS because it's backlit, but with the compass. I rely heavily on a compass, and it has internal lighting, which I found to be too bright. So I ended up using one of these little clip-on reading lights that you get from Amazon with the gooseneck, and it had terrible glare. So I ended up covering it up with Scotch tape to attenuate the light and trying different things. And it was really quite an operation to get it so it was glare proof and it didn't wreck my night vision. So that sounds like a question from somebody who's been there. It's a really good question. Really good question.
Yeah.
Other questions? Yeah.
There aren't any more questions. Robin was just mentioning perhaps if someone wanted to use their phone and had an iWatch, that you could keep the phone stowed and then use the features on the watch, if that would work. I don't know if it displays the same sort of information or if you know.
I mean, how would you do that? Because you're really watching that pointer or that compass to stay on, and if you had to stop and look at your wrist, I think that would in the long run be disturbing.
Yeah. And then Andy says he keeps his phone in a floating waterproof sleeve by Duck Gear and ties the lanyard to his PFD. So
that'll work.
Yeah.
That'll definitely work. Okay. So I am launching a new course called How to Navigate Like a Boss. It's going to be out in a few days to the public, and it's about all of this stuff, but it's also very much about latitude and longitude and teaching an intuitive way of knowing where you are, teaching about a mental map of your waters. There's a marvelous equivalence between nautical miles and minutes of latitude. In my coaching, I do one-on-one coaching. The navigation bit is one of the most transformative for people. So I have turned that into a digital course, and I'm pretty excited about it. It's in beta testing right now with some founding members. But anyway, it's going to be for sale for $500 in a few days. But I'm going to give away one of these tonight. If you guys want to go, let's see. If you want to go to my website and go to my contact page and put "oops" in the message box, I will enter you into a drawing, and one of you will get that course. Now, I am going to harvest your email address, and I am going to send you a newsletter twice a month. So fair warning. But I'm really excited about it, and I think, especially if anybody of you have aspirations to go to the ocean, or you're power boaters or whatever, it's really going to be a great thing. Jennifer, I wanted to ask you. You said you published this later. Should I hold off on the drawing for a few days till that comes out, or how do you want to do that, or just go with this crowd here? Or
I think let's give the treats to the people that showed up.
Okay.
Right? Like, yeah, why not? People made the point to stay here and be here together. So let's give the prize to people who came. So I would, maybe once this is over, you could do the drawing right then. It'll take a couple of weeks probably to get it posted online. So
okay.
I don't know.
I'm gonna
win, right?
I'm gonna do the drawing on Saturday, just in case anybody knows somebody who wants to get in on this or whatever.
Great.
So yeah, I'm pretty
really
excited.
Generous.
Oh, no problem. This business found me. I had so many people a few years ago just saying, "Hey, can I buy you a beer? Can I buy you a coffee? Will you teach me about surf launching or navigation or crossing the bar?" And I thought, well, there's a need here. So I absolutely love doing this work. And I have a question for you, since we have a little extra time.
Yeah.
I'm rowing. Am I qualified to go on your trips, or is that a no? I'm going backwards, you're going forwards.
That's a great question. I don't know if I know the answer. I'm looking at the other board members who've been on the board longer. I think we technically say that you need to be in a sea kayak of a certain length, but I don't know if,
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay, well, think about it because you have some great trips up through the Narrows and Willamette and all that stuff. I don't know, just a sidebar. And
Yeah.
I'd have to
Well,
figure out the wet entry thing too.
yeah. Yeah. Wet exit.
What exit? Okay.
Yeah. Well, and I think there are quite a few people in the club that have multiple boats. So if you wanted to try it out, to go on the trips, you do need to be an OOPS member.
I
Um,
am.
and so, yeah, I would say, maybe there's somebody willing to lend you a kayak so you could see if you like it.
That would be great.
Yeah.
That would be great. Okay. All right, here's a question.
Oh, Charles is
Um,
saying, how fast are you going versus a kayak? It's up to the organizer and the trip.
I'm 3.5 miles an hour on endurance runs. And when you add up all the hours and the distance, I'm at 3.5 miles an hour. I can go 4.2 for a sprint, but I don't know, how fast do you people go?
That's a great question. I have no idea. Steve's saying you can row, but you need to be able to get back into the boat if you were to come out of your boat.
I can do that. I can demonstrate that. I practiced that.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Here's one from D. Not a navigation question, but I'm curious about your nutrition plan. How many calories per hour, liquid or solid food? That's a great question. Boy, I trained for this thing for a year and I really experimented with stuff. I am a fat burner and not a carb burner. I just know that about my body. So I was eating nuts, avocados, um, tuna salad, all that sort of stuff. I just wasn't fueling with carbs, and I ate a lot. I kept the fuel rate up quite a bit. Um, uh, Sausages, and kind bars, all that sort of thing. So I ate a lot and I drank a lot, but it is absolutely crucial. Some people in the race decided they were going to buy a nutrition product that they never used before. And they puking and diarrhea. You don't want to do that. So whatever it is you use, test, 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 test. It's really, really an important question. Okay, let's see.
Charles, you had said that you had done quite a bit of training. What, in addition to like training your stomach, what sort of training did you do for this race to make sure
I
you?
trained up and down the Willamette River.
Uh-huh.
This boat drew me in. I built a boat and I cranked out 5 miles, no problem. And then 10 and then 15. This thing is such a dream to row. And I ended up, my longest training row was actually 62 miles. But yeah, and I did a row right through the night. I went from Willamette Park down to Stovey Island and back all through the night. So I trained hard. And I'll tell you what, it's as much about the gear as it is anything else. Butt pain is huge. I tried every kind of cushion there is. And butt pain, I finally kind of figured it out. But also underarm chafing, I ended up using a compression shirt because that'll kill you. Gloves, I went through 20 different kinds of gloves. I settled on deerskin dress gloves, believe it or not. So yeah, nutrition, all that stuff, test, I would say, and it'll really pay off.
How about for your hydration? At the very start, we were seeing Susanna's Camelback set up on her PFD. What did you do for water?
Well, I mean, my boat compared to a kayak, it's like a barge. There's all kinds of storage, So I carried like 4 gallons of water in the bite valve type of what are they?
Uh-huh. Like a Camelback or?
Yeah, but it's just a 1 liter bottle. So I had like 6
Oh.
of those, and I had to refill them. But I just kept one of those, and I drank a lot of water. I really did.
Mhm.
That's
Yeah. Looks like Robin's asking, did you stand and row?
I can, but I don't. It's not stable.
Mm.
It's not stable. I carry 2 sets of oars. One is a spoon blade oar for normal use, but when the wind is against me, I went to the straight blade oar. That's my low gear.
Mhm.
It doesn't kite as much in the wind. These are such great questions.
Yeah.
Did I miss any?
Further back in the chat, I don't know if you noticed, but Charles posted a link to a YouTube video for how to build a lit compass. So if you're
Okay.
you're looking for that.
I don't want to lose that. Let me copy it. Okay. Well, that's perfect because the factory lighting is just way too much.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. So this was the start. What mayhem. I mean, this is just madness. They're playing this loud rock music, and everybody's full of adrenaline, and people are clashing oars and paddles, and it's a madhouse. Of course, into the race, you don't even see another boat, because everybody spreads out so much.
Do you have a sense of which type of watercraft came in the early finishers?
Surf skis.
Surf skis.
It's a type of, I think it's a type of kayak. It's what they use. Yeah, somebody's nodding their head there, Jerry. It's a kayak with a vertical bow, very long, very thin. And the winner did it in under 10 hours.
Oh, wow.
Which is 7 miles an hour, which is insane for 70 miles. They were actually Olympians,
the
ones that won.
And they were doing it solo. I see there's a tandem here in the photo.
It was a tandem. It wasn't, it wasn't a boat like that. It was more, I don't have a picture of one, but anyways, a surf ski. And then in subsequent years, rowing shells, sliding seat rowing shells did it. Some clowns did it in the stand-up paddleboard, which is just beyond me. The temperature was in the mid 40s in the middle of the night, and these guys that's just
standing. Yeah,
that's just beyond me. Okay.
Peter's got a question here. When the sun comes out, what is your transition to a compass and charts?
Peter, I am more comfortable following a compass dial than the pointer. So I would sort of, using my cross-track error, I mean, the pointer will give me a heading, but with the cross-track error, it was a little different. So I'd kind of figure out what that was. And I love following a compass. So I did. I didn't have a paper chart on board. I had an electronic chart plotter, which has an electronic chart. And that showed me where the ferries were crossing and so forth. So I didn't have paper charts. Do you carry paper charts, Peter?
Yeah, I sure do.
Really?
Yeah. And had a little difficulty lately with the way the NOAA has changed to the electronic chart format.
Yep.
And so now the ones that I've been using, haven't adapted to that yet. So some of the charts are pretty ugly right at present.
Yep.
Print your own chart.
Yes, you can do that.
There's no sites where you can print your own chart.
Yes, but those to me are ugly compared to the way the traditional printed charts were with NOAA. If you're in an area where they've transitioned to electronic charts, you can't get the printed charts anymore. You have to make them yourself.
Right. And Peter, I used to carry electronic or paper charts on my power boat because I thought, what if the GPS network goes down? But by now, all of business and commerce and government relies on GPS. So I think the reliability is pretty high.
Yeah, no, I'm sure that's the case. But now for your plotter, how big is that? And would that fit on a kayak?
No.
That's a problem for kayakers trying to do this long distance nighttime stuff with that. So, or during the day, it's great. I mean, you can get a compass, you can do however you're doing it.
Yeah.
Get your point on land or compass point and see how you're going.
Yep. Okay, so we are going to finish early, unless there's more questions. I wanted to show you a picture of what I looked like at the finish. And there I am. I did it in 20 and a half hours, which was the 40th percentile, which is pretty good because there weren't any age classes. I felt pretty good at that, about that age 59. My average speed was 3.4. I said it was 3.5, but there was just a lot of fiddling around, taking, putting on clothing as it got cold and all that thing. I drank 2.5 gallons of water. And my butt was so sore. I mean, I actually felt pretty decent, but that butt pain is just, it's just devastating. So again, theoceancoach.com if you want to register for the drawing. If anybody wants to do 70-48, do it. You won't regret it. And that's kind of it for me. I'd love to get some more questions.
Yeah, it looks like SD's saying you can volunteer to help at 70-48. And so
Yeah.
folks are interested in doing that, and mention the Navitronics app on your phone.
It's a really good app. It's
Mhm.
solid. Yep.
Thanks, SC. Yeah, Navionics. Thank you.
Yep.
Jay's asking, how did you reduce your butt pain? You said you tried a bunch of things. Was there something that?
What seemed to work was a plain old boat cushion, the throwable cushion that you get for $8 at Walmart. That was actually pretty good. And then I had a little gel seat that crew uses. Crew racers use, and it fits on a little wooden, so it's a little butt-shaped gel thing. And between those two, it kind of worked out.
Interesting. Is there any other, you talked about the gloves, is there any other specialized gear or things that you found that were helpful to either in your navigation or just for comfort?
Well, my boat looked like a cheap Vegas hotel. I did not want to get hit by a ferry. So I had flashing colored lights running down the gunnels, and I had a tall mast for my navigation light, and I had all these flashing LEDs everywhere. I was just paranoid about getting run over. So that actually gave me some comfort. Nobody was going to miss me on the water. I was going to be visible. So that was helpful.
Yeah. Does the race
running lights
communicate with the ferries and let them know? I mean, I would assume they would
Yes.
say this race is happening. Yeah. So they're
Yes.
where there's something out there unusual.
And that was a comfort factor because I was on Channel 14 hearing the ferry boat captains talk about, hey, did you hear about the race? There's some people out here on kayak, so keep an eye open. So that was a real comfort factor.
Yeah.
Robin, another excellent question about running lights. Yes. Thanks to LED technology, you can actually get running lights that meet the Coast Guard requirement. I think it's a nautical mile. And for a human-powered craft, you have to be able to show a white light in time to avoid a collision. Well, that's not good enough for me. I want a white light on a mast, and there are several that will do it. Some people had light sticks or glow sticks. Not worth your life. So, spend the money on a good navigation light.
That makes sense. There's a question up a little bit from D asking if you use a sliding unit too on your wherry or always fixed.
Such a good question. The thing is, I found I could produce plenty of power without sliding seat. It just doesn't take that much power to move this boat. So I didn't, I stuck with fixed seat. It just, I didn't need legs. Now, sometimes if you're bucking a headwind, you really do need a lot of power. But if you're bucking a headwind and there's a chop in a sliding seat, you're going to be miserable because you're going to be catching a crab all the time. So I found for this particular boat, fixed seat was fine.
That's great. Oh, shoot, I had another question and it just went out of my mind.
Okay.
Sure, it'll come back. Oh, are you going to do it again? Would you do the race again?
Should I? Should I? I don't know.
I don't know. Is it like bucket list, it's done and you accomplished that? Or is it like you want to come in and
I did it pre-COVID. Here's the thing, Jennifer. It put me in the best condition I've ever been in my life. And I went into my 60s feeling stronger, more confident than I ever have. And that was priceless. COVID came along and I put on a few pounds and I'm not as strong as I was, but just having that goal and getting that strong was amazing. It was just amazing. So for that reason alone, I may do it again. But there's sort of a been there, done that thing, you know. One more thing. Go ahead.
Always the R2AK race. The race to Alaska, human powered.
The race to Alaska is really for nuts, and they allow sailing though. And a sailboat has won it every time. I'm not a sailor; it's not my gig. And I don't think I have the courage to do the inside passage. No, I like my life too much. That's a little too insane. Why? Do you want to do it?
I just have some friends that have done it in kayak, and it's pretty wild.
Yeah, yeah. A lot of these plans are hatched over a beer in a bar somewhere, and if someone approached me and said you want to do it, I might entertain it, but not right now. I did want to say one thing about the boat. I trained so much in this boat. By the time race day came, I felt like this boat was going to do the race for me, that all I had to do was pull on the oars. I had that much confidence in that boat. I put in so many hours. I knew that boat. It was like the boat was this living thing. And it was really cool. It was really cool to feel that from the boat.
I bet. Yeah, you spent so much time, it almost became an extension of you, it sounds like.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Hey, Charles, you've talked about building the wherry, which is a pygmy. There's a number of us that are boat builders. Maybe you could just take a minute and tell us a little bit about the boat and you're constructing it.
It came in a few boxes and took me 200 hours, which really wasn't bad. There are only 8 screws in the whole boat. It's all stitch and glue. It was my first stitch and glue boat. That is just a fabulous way to build a boat. I built plank on frame and plywood boats, but the stitch and glue is just unbelievable. The panels came pre-cut, numerically cut, and for those of you who don't know stitch and glue, these panels come all pre-cut and you wire them together. You drill little holes at the junctions and you stick a wire in there and you wire this boat together. And then you epoxy the seams and then you put fiberglass in and out. There are no structural members in the thing other than the shear line. And it's light and it is so strong. It's just unbelievable. It's an absolute tank. So it was a very pleasant building experience. If you build boats, you know that half of boat building is sanding. That is indeed the case. I don't know any way around there. But yeah, it was great. It was great.
Charles, what are the dimensions and what's the weight?
14-foot length overall, 4-foot beam. The design weight is 85 pounds. Mine came in at 90 just because I was fiberglassing in the winter and all that stuff went on a little thick, but it is a car topper.
Yeah, there's a question here wondering how easy or hard it is to load that on top of your car alone.
It's a piece of cake, especially when you've been training for a year and you're strong. These are just Yakima racks. And what I do is I lift the bow onto the back rack, then get under it like a turtle and slide it forward. And I actually have a couple of C-clamps. I don't know if you can see this. I have a couple of C-clamps clamped to the transom and they stay there. They're skids, so I don't chew it up as it's sliding across pavement, but no problem at all. No problem at all.
And I think you said this earlier, but I think Robin was asking, can you self-rescue? And shouting out some respect on that.
Yeah, I needed to, because I take this thing on the ocean. I've caught salmon. I actually took it 25 miles offshore and caught tuna. So I've done all sorts of weird things. But yes, I can self-rescue from the side, believe it or not. It's got enough beam that I can just shoot myself up like a seal and get in on the side. I can also go over the transom, which is a little more stable on a chop, although I have to deal with my C clamps. I probably have to throw those away.
Mm-hmm. And let's see, Jay said, worried about rain in an open boat. Do you worry about that?
Boy, 7048, you had to carry everything. So, and I didn't know if I would have the endurance to do it in one shot. So about half the fleet camped somewhere. So I had camping gear, minimal. I had rain gear. I had food for 48 hours. I had gallons and gallons of water. I had an anchor. I had just so much gear on that boat. But yeah, fortunately my race it was cold and it was clear and it wasn't a problem. But yeah, you have to carry all that. But it slowed me down.
Yeah.
All that weight slowed me down. I definitely felt it.
Are there safety motorized boats that are coming along and picking up people that have trouble, or you just kind of need a radio for help, or what
Well,
happens?
they had a half dozen committee boats running around, kind of keeping a distant eye on the fleet. Talking out of school a little bit here, they were not that skilled. I had a problem. They gave you a transponder so they can figure out where you are. Mine failed, and I pulled up to a committee boat and I'm waving my radio at them saying, I got to talk to you, and there was a channel on the radio for the race, and I'm talking and they didn't get it. I finally had to get them on channel 16. So yeah, they were there, but I was going to call the Coast Guard if I ran into trouble. And I also had a personal locator beacon, which is like a mini EPIRB,
Mm-hmm.
and a strobe light on my PFD, and the whole gear.
Dee mentioned that they're going to build a wooden kayak with stitch and glue in Port Townsend in October. So I don't know if Dee, if you want to
Who
say
is?
anything about that.
Who's building a
Dee Caravella 01.
Okay. Yeah, I would say, yes, I do have some specific advice.
Mm-hmm.
Get a respirator. Those epoxy fumes are really bad for you, and it's cumulative. You only get so much exposure for your life, and then you develop an allergy and your boat building days are over. So get a good respirator with the good carbon filter attachments, and you'll hardly smell the epoxy when you're doing it. But that's a really important bit.
Great, thank you. Yeah, I do have one. I was working the house and in the house, so
Okay. Disposable rubber gloves are your friend. I used them liberally. Epoxy, you can get it in the hardener and the epoxy that has the pump. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
Yeah,
but the pumps are calibrated. So instead of measuring and mixing, you just take so many pumps. That's brilliant. And get yourself a furniture scraper. A furniture scraper is just a rectangle of sheet steel, and it's sharp, and you can use it to shear off your drips when the fiberglass is still somewhat wet, and it saves a ton of sanding.
Okay. So do you get that at like a Home Depot or like a wooden?
I think you're into more of a furniture. It's more of like a furniture making tool. I doubt you'd find it at Home Depot.
Okay.
And then one more thing, Pygmy suggested building it on sawhorses, which was a brilliant idea. So a couple sawhorses and then a sheet of plywood to make an elevated table. That means you're doing everything at waist level instead of down on the floor. So that
yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Have you bought it yet, or your plans, or your
Yeah,
kit?
I already signed up. I was hesitating to do it. It's my first fiberglass project, so I didn't know if I should buy the kit and then try to build it by myself, or there's actually not too much of a price difference by the time you get the right tool and everything else. So I decided to buy the kit and do the class at the same time. They had like a discount recently.
The kit was brilliant. You know, I've done it both ways, but the kit just made it so easy. So that's a good. What's the design?
This is a Shearwater 14, so it's like 14 and a half foot. It's sort of a mix between ocean kayak and a kind of playboat surfing kayak.
Oh, wow.
So I want to build two boats. You know, this one's me for my spouse. She wants something needs something a little wider, more stable. I want something a bit more racing.
Sweet.
So anyway, this is the first boat, and then the second one I may use strips. I'm not sure. We'll see.
Okay. Okay. I want to be mindful of the time, Jennifer. It's 8 o'clock. I don't want to keep people.
Yeah, no, this has been great. I saw lots of thank yous and really informative. So we appreciate that. And yeah, I want to thank you for your time and for your generosity in offering the drawing for the class. And so if anyone needs that web address again, it's theoceancoach.com. And Charles, you were saying you go to, once you're on the web page, where do you go?
I have a contact page where you can contact me, and just put oops in the message box, and then I'll know that you guys, you know, because there's lots of people signing up, and I'll do the drawing on Saturday, and
Great.
then I'll probably just send you an announcement, Jennifer. Well, no, I'll have your email address, so I can announce. I can email the. I'll email the winner, and I'll email the winner to you too, Jennifer, just so you know.
Okay. Yeah, great. That sounds
Okay.
great. Well, thank you. I'm going to stop the recording so that if somebody wanted to say something